Recording.
Good morning. It's 11:01 on Tuesday, the 19th of December. And this is Hey, What's Going On Around Here with the infamous Heather Spaulding, editor of the Journal of the San Juan Islands. And at the controls is Jeremy Tyler, who put a camera on himself so that he would draw attention to himself. Big ego over there. We don't have any guests today. We're just going to talk. We don't have news stories to talk about. So people are going to be like, well, what are you going to talk about?
What's the point of this?
We are going to talk about actually an idea that Heather brought up to me weeks or months ago. I guess maybe even a couple months ago. And I recognized it immediately as a great idea. And we would like to talk about that idea and see if it gets any traction. We are going to bring this idea, or this tape actually, this recording, to the attention of the powers that be. And CNL2 is pushing so many rocks up the hill. I mean, some big rocks up the hill all at the same time. That if this happens on its own, if people join in, we're ready to go. Otherwise, I don't know how much time either one of us have to push the rock up the hill. You're very busy, doing the work
Pushing several rocks up hills too.
You're doing the reporting of a staff of 3 people. So we want to share this idea, kind of put it on the record, explain it, and then we will definitely be sharing this discussion with, as I said, the powers that be. Why don't we start with your idea?
All right. My idea is to start a journalism club with the high school, and it started a few years ago. So it's taken me that long to kind of try to wrap my mind around it and figure out how one does that. And I got the idea from a friend of mine who herself was in a journalism club back in the day, and I'd never heard such a thing. So then when I got the job as an editor, I thought that is a fabulous way of getting high school kids involved in the paper, because I really want that. I feel like we need to do, and by we, I mean I, need to do a better job covering things at the high school, covering sports, but with the way that we're staffed, it's really, really difficult, and that, unfortunately, is one of the things that kind of falls. We just don't get to it, and it's terrible. So that is my way of bringing kids involved. Maybe they can help me. They can help me be, if not cover it, be aware of it, but also teaching kids about what it takes to be a journalist, what it takes to get into the media, whatever that means, from, newspapers to maybe even a news anchor. So, and teach them about why the news is so important.
Now, you ran an article a few weeks ago, great article, by a young writer. She wrote about the effects of COVID in the local school system.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
So, again, wanting to involve high school students and do a better job there, I thought, the Journal used to have interns. So I went to the school and said, hey, how does one do this? How can I get an intern? And so they told me, and Maria was the one that jumped at it. So she is interning through January, and then hopefully somebody else will step in.
Is that through the English department?
No, it's just the school.
The school.
So anybody who wants extra stuff at the school can put their name in the hat.
So there's no teacher advisor or sponsor or anything like that. It's directly between the paper and the student.
It is. I do have to fill out paperwork saying, yes, indeed, she did these hours. Yes, indeed,
She
blah, blah,
got
blah.
credit for it.
So she gets credit for it, but that is.
Did she publish other stories or was it mainly?
She has,
Okay.
yeah.
How
She
many
has
stories?
published a story. She does cover sports for us. She has covered the Day of the Dead for us. She just wrote a story about I can't say it in Spanish, but it is the Day of Virgin Mary, I believe. So there was an event about that, and so she covered that, took pictures, and again, I thought she did a fabulous job. She's a really good writer.
So where will this next intern come from?
Depends on the student if a student wants to do it, they tell their counselor, and then the counselor calls me, and then we meet.
So this is Friday Harbor. Have you looked into Spring Street?
I have not done that.
Okay.
So I need to do that as well. And this journalism club, I would love to have it at Spring Street as well.
So describe your vision of the journalism club.
Well, my vision is mostly just exploring how kids can get involved with news and learn about how newspapers work. I had a crazy idea about doing fundraising and taking like maybe 4 or 5 kids to the White House press dinner, but that costs thousands of dollars a ticket.
You just want
Not to mention
you just want to go to the press conference.
I just thought that would be really cool. Yes, I would love to go to that someday in my life. That's actually on my bucket list. I think it would be the coolest
That
thing.
would be amazing.
Wouldn't that be amazing? So I don't know. It kind of depends on where the kids are at. I want to meet them where they're at.
Is this a group that would meet? It's a club, right?
It's a club. They would meet.
How often would they meet?
I would like to see them meeting weekly, honestly.
Once a week
Yeah.
at one of the schools.
Yeah.
Would you ideally mix the 2 schools together? I understand they do that from time to time.
I would love to do that.
Yeah. And then would you just be teaching them? Would you also be taking their content and putting it in the journal?
Yeah.
So they would actually be
It would get
contributing.
published. Yeah. And that would be part of the learning experience of this is what it takes. This is what an editor has to do in a way, and go through their work and see like what an editor is looking for. Like show them what AP style means, show them what it takes to interview a person,
So you would be a teacher, sort of? You would not a teacher, but you would
Yeah, that's
teach?
a fine line.
I know.
Because I don't want it to be another class. It's a club. I want them to have fun. Excuse me. I want them to, get out there and learn through experience rather than just like sitting down, taking notes.
Right.
But through this experience, like, for example, let's take a story that they're working on and they come to me and they say, I've got this story idea, and in order to do so, I need to interview XYZ. Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Let's talk about what you want to ask these people, and then talk about, the angle that story can take and all those things, and then set them free.
You would have time for all this.
I hope so. I want to.
You're doing this thing, so you say yes to everything.
Well, there's so many ways to like reach out in the world. The whole point of a paper the whole point of news is getting the word out there. Mm-hmm. So that means multiple different avenues.
So who has to help this happen?
So I need help from the school and see what they need. I need help from any teacher that would want to be a supervisor. Depending on how this goes about, I would need donors maybe. I mean, you brought up the idea of having it be a nonprofit. Mm-hmm. So it would not be necessarily through the club or through the school, because they have a whole different series of clubs. This would be a nonprofit. So we'd need a board, we'd need donors for that.
So you had this idea, and then I immediately, I guess, filtered it through what a community television thing could do with that. So taking your idea, kind of the structure that you're talking about, here's my addition to it.
Yeah.
Because it's a layer on top of it. It's not competing or anything like that. One dimension is that I would, as soon as possible, try to involve all 4 county high schools, adding, in addition to, and I think it's very important to have both schools here, but adding Orcas and Lopez.
Yeah.
I would ask and appreciate, and I think it's kind of pivotal, if Rock Island would provide the interconnectivity between these places, so that we could, well, I kind of got that out of order. So all 4 high schools, and the television version of all this, the print version is that you get lots of articles. And we'll talk about the altruism of it too, and there's plenty of that, which is we need to listen to the kids. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Exactly.
But you as an editor get a lot of fresh content that you haven't been publishing, or you've had a little bit with the intern, and now you can have much more. Probably 4 times, 6 times more. So you get the print stuff. My idea, the opportunity CNL2 can create, is I think of it as a noon show. Could be in the afternoon, but because noon would kind of cut right into the actual class time. But it could be whenever the schools could, they'd all have to be together because this would be a coordinated product. But for a half hour, the kids would present news on television. And that would leave, I think, about somewhere between 5 and 7 minutes per school. So, and it could be once a week, it could be once every weekday, depending on how much participation there was and all that. But imagine each high school is contributing one segment on whatever they choose, and I think that you're thinking the same thing, that comes from up, not from down. So
exactly.
we're not an assignment desk. We're not telling them what to cover. They tell us what they want to cover,
and we guide them through it.
And provided there's an advisor, hopefully the advisor would cut off a really dumb idea, before it even got to us. But imagine a half-hour news program that is completely focused locally, coming from the kids, and coming all together in one half hour. It's almost like a goosebump kind of thing. It's so cool. And CNL2 could make that happen. The studios could be in the schools. The studios could be, we're leasing space all over the place, so it'd just be 2 more leases in Lopez, and firehouses or theaters or wherever. But wherever this is, if we would need Rock Island to help us bring the live signal from Lopez into Jeremy. Go back to you. Into all that junk on the table there. So a live signal coming over fiber into there, and then live signal coming from Orcas into there, and even a live signal coming from somewhere in here, unless they came to this desk, which would be fine. That would be okay too. But at least to transport the live signal from those 2 places, so it could be mixed all in one. Why do you have to do it like that? Because we have to actually, back to you, now point to the switcher. They can't see the switcher. There's a switcher over there, and everything has to, think of it as a funnel. Everything has to come in there. And then from here, in this room, in the technology center of Friday Harbor, then it goes out to the world for streaming. This would be live. Live TV is fun. Live TV with kids is even funner. In 1984, I was 25 years old, and I coordinated a kids news show for 3 days, and it was fantastic. And they make mistakes and they laugh, and but it was live TV news with kids, in 1984. It was hellaciously expensive. It was something that just was a one-time thing. I didn't do it. We could have tried to do it year after year, but it was just a one-time thing. But today it would be much easier and much more affordable. But, to shift gears into the altruism of this, the mission of this, I'm going to make another speech, but I make this speech all the time. We need to empower young people.
Yeah.
We need to be listening to them.
Yeah.
21%, the last time I saw the stat, 21% of American kids are on antidepressants or anti-anxiety pills. Suicide rates, drug use, kids, and thankfully, I guess I get in a ton of trouble for this sentence, but that's my specialty, so I say it anyway. I think that the families, in many ways, on the islands may be a little stronger in some cases. I think that certainly there are problems here, and there's, we learned from the sheriff there's fentanyl problems, and that's not all the kids, but we're not immune to those problems, but the families here, the family units are strong. I think the parental participation in the schools is stronger. I think there's no question about that. Yeah. And yet we still, have kids who, they can read. They understand what's going on. They understand, they're not going to have Social Security, most likely. The environment, the planet may be 3 degrees hotter by then, maybe not, but maybe so. National debt. I mean, all these things, housing. Yeah. Something like half of the 30-year-olds today are living with their parents. Have you seen that? Stuff like that. It's tough to be a kid. Yeah. It's tough to be a kid. And we need something like this where they get to talk about what they want to talk about to a big audience. Yes. Through the newspaper, through community television. And, we should let it go where it goes. I mean, we should listen to what they have to say. An enormous amount of younger people today do not agree with certain things, like in the geopolitical and where the United States stands with our allies and certain things. They don't have the same values. Yeah. And instead of squashing that and slapping it down, I think it's time to listen. Listen where they're coming from. So I like the idea for a couple of reasons. Number one is it is a way to bring the county together. We have a weird county here. There's all these little dots. With islands, lots and lots of water between them. It's a really weird county. And it's everybody I've talked to about this idea just lights up. I talk about all the rocks I'm pushing up the hill, and this is the one where you see eyes open wider. The idea of bringing the schools together and the islands together around the kids.
I think that'd be fantastic. And just continuing on a little bit with what you were saying about listening to kids, I think also showing them, giving them hope as to where they can go in their life and something that they can tangibly have that may make the world a better place. That's one of the things that I love actually about the news is, yes, it's horrible. I have had to tell some just heartbreaking stories that make me cry when I write them. Yeah. But there's also the amazing stories, and there's also knowing that by telling that heartbreaking story, it might prevent others, that people might learn from it and make the world a little better. So that's what kids can do by learning and getting their toes into the news world. Yeah. It might give them space. Well, another reason is COVID and coming out of COVID and all the damage that was done during that period of time.
Anything that we can do to help them catch up, anything we do to empower them, get their voice back, it's just, to me, it's your idea was a really good idea, and we can put it on steroids if we had a television dimension to it. All could be done. So superintendents, principals, parents, donors. Yeah, we're thinking about the money. But, I don't know that there's a whole lot of cost here necessarily. But I really, when I think about it, I think like the cost of maybe paying a school sponsor. Mm-hmm. I mean, are you wanting money from this?
I'm not wanting money from this.
We're not.
No.
CNL isn't. So the cost, if Rock Island, please, Rock Island would step up and make, this possible, this interconnection of the schools. That's one of the ideas, to me, that drives it toward a nonprofit. Give them a tax break. Nobody needs to make any money. This is not a money-making thing.
No, it's strictly for the kids.
But it is an opportunity not just to empower the kids, but to listen to the kids. And you touched on another thing too, is job skills. There's not much going on in San Juan County that is going to lead you necessarily into a career in journalism or television or broadcasting. This could make a difference. I mean, WW is a good journalism program. What an advantage it would be what an advantage for this girl, right, who wrote for you. I mean, she's got a portfolio now.
She's got a portfolio.
Totally. I mean, coming out of high school, we could have, dozens of kids coming out of the islands with television experience, interview experience, photography experience, writing, editing. And that's, I think, if you have decent grades, you're going to probably be admitted into WW, but you don't necessarily bring a portfolio with you. Or if you're from one of the bigger schools, you might, but not necessarily from the smaller schools. So it's a little bit of an equalizer where we can bring some opportunities to high school kids in this smaller community that it makes you maybe a little more competitive. But mostly it's just about giving people a taste of this. If you get a taste of this when you're 14, 15, 16, then you might actually have that focus. It's like, wow, I really love this. Now I know what my major is going to be, at Western or wherever you want to go. Or, more and more people just skip the degree and go right into it, find a way into it. So anyway, I guess that's it. That's our show. I don't really have much else to say, but
let's make this happen.
We would like to make this happen, and we have mentioned, I think, the key people. If we set this up as a nonprofit, we could do crowdfunding. We could get grants, I think. So clearly it's a kind of a no-brainer. This is not a for-profit kind of a thing. And if we keep it on the outside of the curriculum as a club, I don't think it should necessarily face a ton of red tape from the schools. Now, as soon as, and by the way, I wouldn't certainly discourage any high school from developing some curriculum, developing maybe even a journalism class. But I would think, school boards and administrations and principals would probably like to see first, okay, that's a strong club. There's my students that are actually going to enroll in a journalism class. It's kind of like, going 0 to 80, why don't we first see if the interest is there. And, you could let a freshman in, right? I mean, all 4 years, and you could see, well, this kid keeps coming back. He keeps staying with it. And so that's an indication that maybe a course would actually, be popular.
Which I would love to see. And I would love to see a kid going through this club, going off to college, living maybe and working as a journalist somewhere else for a little while, and then coming back here and bringing that talent here. Like having my homegrown staff.
That's a good dream.
How great would that be?
That's a good dream. Well, so anyway, we're going to share this with the powers that be. I think we did a decent job of selling it. So that's what we would do. Please contact either Heather, who's pretty easy to find at the journals, or contact me through cnl2.com. And let's do this. So we're going to take 2 weeks off for the holidays, and then we're going to light things on fire when we get back. I have had, as far as, hey, what's going on around here, the show that we're doing, I have had several representatives of charities and nonprofits in the area say that they would like to come in January.
Nice.
Too much going on with the holidays, but
Oh, that's really
want to,
great.
yeah, we want to be very plain. This is a public affairs program, which means we are here to talk about institutions, nonprofits, community needs. The sheriff was a great interview. We've devoted, I think, 1 or 2 sessions mostly to the ferries. It's not a political show per se, but it's hard sometimes to talk about some of these things without getting into some of the politics. But we want to be very plain that if you're seeing this and you have something that you want to talk about, you should contact us. We're set up here for a guest if you want to come in. We're set up with the ability to take a call from Zoom. And we're also, believe it or not, set up to take phone calls. And one of these days, we're going to get a phone call.
One of these days.
And that'll be really interesting.
It'll be exciting.
Yeah, I'll give you the number now that we're going off the air. It's 360-745-CNL2. That's 745-2652. And don't call because we're about to go off the air. So thank you. Have a great holiday.
Happy holidays.
Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, all of them, and some I'm probably forgetting, but have a great holiday, and we will be back. Is it the 2nd? Tuesday the 2nd, do we think? Whatever the first Tuesday of January is. Would we do the 2nd? Is that too soon? Maybe the 9th.
If we take the next 2 Tuesdays off, that would be the 9th.
Yeah. So, okay. You can see all this great planning that goes here. Come back on Tuesday, January 9th, and have a happy holiday.
Happy holidays.